You've asked for it. I'm building a web design and user experience course. If you want 10% off, the link is in the description, or just go to my website/course. More on this later. My client came to me with a problem. They needed a 4-page website that looked professional, fit their brand guidelines, and set their business up for success. In this video, I'll show you exactly how I took their vision, broke it down into requirements, and turned it into a website that they ended up loving and was perfect for what they needed. This client was SuperGamingParties. They basically bring a game console LAN center to your home or space for birthday parties or events. They are based in Iowa in the United States and are a brand new business, so this would be their first website. They came to me saying that they need a 4-page website: home, services, pricing, and contact. They also wanted to integrate the Calendly software on their website so they could have a booking system. They had a logo designed already and picked 2 colors, a specific orange and red for their branding. Here's the actual content that the client provided. I would say that this is a typical scenario when getting content from a client. It's typically a Google Doc with a wall of text. Sometimes you'll receive content in spreadsheets, or they'll refer you to their existing website, or I've even seen PowerPoint presentations being used to get the content to you. But the good old Word document is the best way, because you have the most freedom and you can do whatever you want with it. So I began thinking about the design. My first thought when it comes to design is the look and feel. So they are in an industry related to video games, parties, and some tech. Their target audience would typically be younger kids who are having these sort of LAN parties. And the vibe of the website should be fun, but not childish, but sort of youthful in energy. So knowing all that, I can get an idea of what the website would look like in my head, specifically with the font, or technically typeface. I knew right away which one I should choose. Good old Montserrat. This font is common as hell and probably overused, but because it's a good font. It works in a lot of different industries and aesthetics, and I thought it would fit the theme of the website perfectly. Getting into development, 99% of websites I make are going to be WordPress. So I use that and a theme to get started. I used a theme called Motivac, and it's a Elementor-based theme that targets events and conferences. I started by searching for themes related to the industry, like events, video games, and parties, and individually probably looked through 100 of them to find this one theme. Now I have to say, like most WordPress themes, I think this theme looks terrible. A lot of the sections are specifically designed for the placeholder content they used, which wouldn't apply to you, making around 80% of these sections useless, as these layouts wouldn't fit your content. And also the header and footer don't follow what I think is good web design. But when I look at themes, I try to look at their potential rather than just it doing everything for me. And if you use inspect element, you can actually kind of reverse engineer and dissect how the theme was made, so it could tell you whether or not it'll work for you. And for the most part, this theme hits all the checkboxes I needed. This theme uses the Montserrat font already, which is a big factor of me choosing it. What usually ends up happening is I use the theme as a foundation for the website, and the final website ends up looking pretty far from what the theme originally looked like. When I started making this website, I basically deleted 90% of the demo content because it wouldn't apply to the content. Something I want to talk about more is the idea of choosing themes. Some people are adamantly against using WordPress themes and want to code it themselves. I actually want to make an entire video on this topic because I think there's a lot to talk about regarding it. But long story short, WordPress themes are cost effective for clients, especially clients that are small businesses and don't have $15,000 to spend on a website. So a pre-built WordPress theme is extremely cost effective for them. It's also a lot faster to make, which is something every business appreciates. Not to mention the website is fully customizable, so they don't have to pay a developer to make changes. Let me know if you'd like to see that video. Looking at the design more, I use the colors of the website from the logo to set for the colors of the entire website. I also knew I wanted to use rounded corners on boxes and buttons because I think it makes it feel more welcoming and friendly, which I think fits the target audience a little more. Quick pause. A lot of people have asked me to go deeper on this topic of web design and laying out pages, so I'm making a course to teach you all about this. If you want 10% off when it launches, Just sign up with the link in the description. No payment now, it just reserves your discount. Okay, back to the video. The homepage starts off with the hero section, with a clear call to action explaining who the business is, what they do, and how they can help the customer. There's also an image on the right side which not only tells but shows what to expect. Just from this one hero section, you get an idea of what the entire website is about, so I think it's really effective. Next, there's a quick section explaining why they're the best and what makes them great with some icons. Showing you the original content for this section, sometimes when you have content that is so clearly defined and organized, such as these 3 blocks of text here, the layout for that section will almost end up designing itself. The content should always dictate the layout, so when the content is good, laying it out usually goes smoothly. For example, all these services, the description links were all very similar. That makes it much more easier to work with than to find a custom design solution just because the content is all different awkward lengths. I like to use these taglines too when possible because 1, I think they look good, and 2, more importantly, it's a chance to offer some casual, helpful content to the user. So I did use these with most of the sections. For the next section, they explain how the process works. I tried a 4-column layout with this section, but it looked too cramped, so I went with a 2x2 grid. If it were also 4 columns, I think it would have looked too similar to the section above. And then there's a list of the different kinds of events you can have. Ideally, this would all link to their own respective pages in the future, but for now they're all anchor links that just take you to the specific section on the pricing page. And then of course you need some social proof. So in this case, testimonials. The client only had a few testimonials to go off of because their business is still brand new, but in the future they could have more or even photos. The next section is a simple FAQ section. In my opinion, there weren't enough questions for it to deserve its own page, so I think it just being on the homepage is good enough. And lastly, of course, the call to action. I wanted to make it an orange background because I wanted it to stand out. And just to make it look a little more nicer and stand out, I did some light Photoshop work to get this hand and controller on the left side. And if we scroll down to the footer, in my opinion, this footer is perfect. First thing is that you want your footer to look like a footer. Some of them can be confusing as to when they start or end, and this footer is clearly defined. Next, this footer is very useful. It has links to every page on the website, and these secondary links that users could be scanning for when on the website. In the first column, which I think a lot of people miss, and it's really important, is a quick explanation of the company or organization with a clear call to action button. It makes it an extremely powerful tool for the user to understand what your website is. And lastly, it has the contact info with the social media links. Taking a look at the pricing page, it's 2 columns with 3 rows for the pricing packages. I felt this was the best layout for the content for a couple of different reasons. One of them is it didn't require the user to click anything like an accordion or a tabbed layout would do. And then the content could be contained within a container so the packages were more easily scannable. And most importantly, I felt it was the simplest layout you could have, rather than something that's like rows with pricing packages with more complex column layout inside the individual rows. So for the goal of it being simple, I felt this was the best. Considering all those factors, plus the user would never need to compare the packages because they're distinctly different, I felt this was the best layout. If you compare them, it would make sense to have a completely different layout where it's more side by side and you can see the differences, but in this case, you didn't need that. And that concludes the pricing page. The gallery page is super simple. I started off with some introductory text, which is what I recommend for every page, and then just a grid of images. You can click on them for the pop-up so you can see the bigger version of the image. I think being able to click on it to get the full size of the image makes a huge difference for a better user experience, as you can actually see the product or service in action a lot more clearer. For the contact page, I always like to keep it simple. But I like here what I did specifically. It immediately offers you a call to action. If you're ready to get started, you can click on the button to actually go to the booking software. Or if you still have a question, you can use the form below. To me, I love the way this looks because it's, again, simple. It shows the options in a very user-intuitive way. Another thing to note is I think most service-based websites should have a contact form. No matter how much information you have on your website, there's always going to be someone who has another question or people that aren't quite ready to commit to scheduling, booking, or buying anything yet. And so I always recommend having a contact form. Now I want to talk about some ways where I went a little further with the design and wanted to add some small details. The first one is with the buttons. If you look at the logo, it has this very slight tilt. So I thought it'd be cool to mimic that with the buttons. But remember, buttons are an extremely important part of the user experience on a website, so you don't want to mess with them too much. But in this case, I just added a slight tilt to add the aesthetic, and I think it works. You don't want to push this too much to where the buttons don't end up looking like buttons anymore. That's when you create a poor user experience for the sake of design, which you don't want to do. One other fun detail I added is to the bottom with these call to actions. I added this slight texture to the background. For me, growing up playing video games, I would always remember sitting on the carpet in front of the TV. And so this texture being like a carpet, it was like a hidden meaning for me personally. But I think a lot of other people could relate to that. Just sitting on the carpet, watching movies or playing video games. After all those small design details I did, I sent over the website to the client. They said they loved it and they came back with the revisions, and it was mostly changes to the pricing table. In terms of results this website brought for the client, it was their first website, they just started their business, so they definitely wouldn't have any SEO helping them out at this stage. But I could see on the website that it has generated inquiries for them already, and it could have already paid for itself within just a few months. Overall, I'm personally proud of this website. It's a small one, but it was a fun one to make. Like all good websites, it's basic and user-friendly. And if you want something a little more in depth, the course is coming soon. Sign up with the link in the description and you'll receive 10% off when the course launches.